Hi guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plunk production, and in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts, opinions and, if you prefer the term, review on the 1991 film Once Upon a Time in China, starring Jet Li and directed by Sue Hark. And we'll get more onto the film that I'm going to talk about in this particular video in a moment. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody before we go any further for the support on this series of videos I've been doing. It's been great fun to watch these films and then give my thoughts and opinions. Some people have been given their thoughts and opinions, which is why Once Upon a Time in China is my selection for this current video, because a previous comment from somebody on my other videos has suggested this film. And of course the second one stars both Jet Li and Donnie Yen in the same film, so I'm really looking forward to seeing a bit of them, both of them in the same thing. The other thing I wanted to say before I go any further is I'm starting to understand the cliches and the tropes when it comes to these sorts of films. They are a bit janky, they're a bit rough around the edges, the dubbing's a bit off sometimes. The way shots are framed and the way the overdubbing sort of happens sometimes. It's all a bit janky, but it's all part of the fun. And every single one of these martial arts films, although they tend to be really serious, there's some sort of comedic thing going on in the background. There's always a comic relief character. There's always there's a bit of slapstick going on in the background. So I am beginning to understand some of the nuances when it comes to these films. So before we go any further, if you are liking what I'm doing here, if you want to know more about what I'm doing, then please check back to my scope into martial arts films. That will give you an idea of what I'm doing here right now. But if you are enjoying what I'm doing, please like or dislike depending on your feelings. And if you're feeling a bit more advantageous, then please hit that subscribe button. It's big, it's red, it's free. Do it. It really does help out. So let's dive straight into this video. So first of all, I'd like to give you an idea of what other people thought about this film. IMDb, it's got a 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb and an 88% out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. But as I said at the beginning, the whole point of this video is for me to give you my opinions and ultimately my review on Once Upon a Time in China. So, Jet Li stars as Master Wang, that's it, Wang Fei-hung, who's a prominent Chinese martial arts school and joins forces with a nationalistic militia to overthrow the communist power's intent on overtaking China. Just read that off of Google. So when we first come into this film, basically Master Wang, and I think it's some kind of military, either somebody else that's in charge of the local militia, is on a boat with Master Wang, and they're watching a parade, a Chinese parade with the dragons on this boat, and it's all very festive and all very high in spirits and all that kind of stuff. And then it cuts to that goes on for a little bit, and there's a couple of rope stunts and things from Jet Li, and he carries on doing the dragon thing, and some bits and bobs going on. We then cut to both Jet Li and this other person who's something to do with the local militia. He's either a captain or something. He's going to go off to America, because what's one of the subplots of this film, and it takes place during the 1800s in China, in Foshan once again, and of course I have watched a previous film that takes place in Foshan, which of course was Ip Man, although that took place during the Japanese occupation of China during the Second World War, just before the Second World War. It did last until the end of the Second World War. This actually takes place in the 1800s, in which Japan is currently occupied by the Americans, is occupied by the British, it's occupied by the Japanese, it's occupied by different parts of Japan are occupied by different other nations, basically, and it's the westernization of China. This is actually what's happening here. In fact, the end sort of echoes the start, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So essentially, this character who's involved with the militia goes off to America because there's people going around this area in China, Foshan again, who are basically handing out leaflets going, there's gold in America. And this captain, or whoever this person is, goes off to America and kind of leaves Master Wong, to train the militia himself in this in martial arts combat, so they can defend themselves against the various occupations that are going on in China. We then cut to a montage where, Master Wang is training all these people. Then after this, we get the understanding that there's a lot of tension when it comes to this period in China. Of course, they're being occupied by all these different entities, all these different nations, and there's a lot of tension. I'm not going to go any further when it comes to the plot, because that sort of sets the plot up quite nicely in what's really going on in this film. In terms of the film itself, as I said, there's a lot of, there's a bit of a love triangle, but it's like a triangle of different people against each other. There were some really kind of weird comedic elements in this film where basically the US or the Americans end up shooting the Brits, and the Brits end up shooting the Japanese or the Chinese. And yeah, so basically the first thing that happens in this film is there's this gang from Soshan, I think it is, and this gang ends up being quite a thorn in Master Wong's side. Master Wong does own a martial arts school. He also owns a clinic in which he treats the ill and the injured and kind of stuff, and he keeps having to deal with this gang from Soshan. And long story short, in Foshan, the city they're in, martial arts has been banned, basically. So the local police force, the authority, is also a thorn in in Jet Li's side throughout the entire film. There are only people that are like thorns in Jet Li's side, and Jet Li is trying to juggle all of these different plates, basically, and he's got to defend his territory, defend his honor, while still being, I don't know if he's a doctor or a nurse or something as well. I'm not sure what he is in that regard, but he wants to care for his patients in his clinic as well. And he's, all these different swords. He's spinning all these different plates. He's then got his disciples that are very rash and hot-headed, and they act quicker than they should. We then got another subplot when it comes to the theatre that's going on. There's a particular member of the theatre called Foon, who is he knows martial arts. He's actually a really good martial artist. And then later on in the film, you get this other Master Yin, who ends up being challenged by this gang from Soshan because he keeps showing like tests of might just outside their territory, their base of operations, whatever it may be, and they don't really like that. They want him to go away because it sort of humiliates them and all kind of stuff. And he kills, he does kill. He kills one of their generals or something. And at some point during the film, I know I'm going back and forth, at some point during the film, the Soshan end up basically burning almost to the ground this clinic / martial arts school, whatever it may be, that Master Wong, I keep getting his name wrong because it's Fei Hung, Master Wong, owns and is part of. Yeah, the film has some very disparate things going on all over the place. It's hard to keep track of at times. The editing and some of the, the audio dubbing and that kind of stuff isn't the best and does kind of make it a bit harder to follow. The overdubbing of either Chinese or English or any other language over the top sometimes distracts or detracts from some aspects, but at the end of the day, it does have quite a convoluted plot, and when you're following the different bits of the plot and you understand when certain things happen in certain scenes, it does add to the tension. Like I was saying earlier, when a British soldier ends up shooting an American soldier, or a Chinese soldier and up being killed from one of the other, that tension, it does add a lot of tension. It adds a lot of layers that end up building up to a crescendo that sort of happens at the end. Now, it's a martial arts film, so let's talk about the martial arts fight scenes. They are really well done. I like the sort of closer proximity in the closer environments that Jet Li uses in this film. The end fight scene, by the way, at the very end with the ladders and what have you, when he faces Master Yin for the second time, really, really well done. There's a really kind of somber, impactful moment at the end that happens to somebody that I'm not going to say who, and it sort of is a philosophical theme that runs throughout this film, and it's sort of fists versus guns and where that lies and all that kind of stuff. But once again, Jet Li is fantastic as an actor and a martial artist. The supporting cast is fantastic. I loved Bucktooth, I think his name is. I loved Porky. I loved all those different people. I liked, Master Yim, although he was a bit of an arsehole. All really well done. Just, again, sometimes some of the production elements, such as the editing and the dubbing and stuff like that, does leave something to be desired sometimes. But, it was a really nice, really well put together film. I know it's won some awards. I think it won Best Director, with whatever award it won that for, but well done to the director for that. It is a really convoluted story, and I think, your hat does need to go off for the director and the people involved with that. I did enjoy the film, as the whole point of this series of videos is I enjoy a good fight scene anyway, and although ultimately what's going to happen, the good guy's going to win, it's how they get there is really part of the journey, so to speak. So following along with Master Wong and his disciples and all the other people, seeing how they're going to get out of one mess or another mess, or how they're going to navigate. And at one point, Master Wong is set up. It's very convoluted, but if you keep track, it's a good film that has a nice narrative to it. At the end of the day, the last segment of the film really does sort of shadow the beginning of the film, and shows that China is accepting some of the westernization that's going on. If you couldn't tell, I enjoyed the film. I think I enjoy all these films. Again, I'm starting to understand sort of the wonky, sort of janky nature of some of these films. I think I was spoilt by watching Kung Fu Hustle as the first of these films, because Kung Fu Hustle is really well produced, really well edited, all that kind of stuff, and that kind of, spoilt me for what's to come. And of course, Ip Man is really well edited and produced, whereas this and Fist of Legend, less so. I think I'm beginning to understand what that means and understand these sorts of films and the cliches and what it is to watch these films. But hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts and opinions and ultimately review on this film. If you want to leave a suggestion about what I could review or talk about in the future, leave a comment down below. But until next time, as always guys, please take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Ta-ra.